Good Saturday morning, everyone. Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. In today's weather forecast, I will be talking about the coldest air in decades across the northeastern United States today, followed by a major warm up and a storm next week. Will there be severe weather? We'll answer that question, and a parade of storms looks possible from mid to late February. I'll cover that and much more in this video. Looking at the temperatures this morning, it is very cold up here across the Great Lakes, and in particular, southeastern Canada and the northeast United States. It is very cold here this morning. Temperatures are down to 30, if not 35 below across Quebec, Canada this morning. Even some 15 to 20 degree below zero temperatures here across portions of Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, and upstate New York going through this morning. And that is a 40 to almost a 50 degree temperature swing from 24 hours ago across the Northeast. Meanwhile, back to the West, that is the start of our warm up we'll be seeing as we get through this weekend. But if you guys are with me on this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel down below. You get all of my daily weather forecast updates each and every morning at 9 a.m. And hit the like button. That's the thumbs up button down below the video. It helps to spread out all of this weather information across YouTube. So I definitely appreciate all the subscribers and the likes out there. But yeah, let's talk about how this polar vortex works. So with the polar vortex, the cold air and the low pressure near the pole, and when there is a weakness in the jet stream, that polar vortex moves farther south, or at least these lobes of the polar vortex, and that's what we're seeing across the Northeast going through this weekend, in particular here today. And you can see that here looking at the European forecast models, upper level jet stream through today. You can see that weakness in the jet stream elongating that polar vortex farther south and east across southeastern Canada and into the northeastern United States with all of those cold temperatures. These are your high temperatures across the northeast here and into southeastern Canada this afternoon. We got some double-digit below zero highs up here into Maine, getting into Vermont, New Hampshire, and upstate New York, and even down here into Boston, New York City, Long Island. These temperatures won't be a picnic either. We'll be in the single digits to teens above zero in those areas. But looking at the wind chills out there, it will be brutal this afternoon with those wind chill advisories and wind chill warnings up across Maine, getting into Vermont, New Hampshire, and much of Quebec. A lot of these areas will be only getting into 30 to even 40 below for maximum warmth this afternoon with the wind chills. So definitely bundle up out there, and again, cover up all of exposed skin, because temperatures and wind chills like this, you could get frostbite very, very quickly outdoors. But you can see that. You can see the polar vortex across the Northeast and into southeastern Canada today. But that warm-up is not too far behind. That's back across the Central Plains, getting into the mid-Mississippi Valley throughout this afternoon. And you can see it makes a significant eastward jog across the eastern two-thirds of the country going into Sunday, February 5th. That will be tomorrow. And looking at your temperatures on Sunday, with that warmer air pushing in, we got widespread 40s and 50s up here across the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, and back across much of the Southern Plains as well. Down farther south across the central Gulf Coast states into Florida, these temperatures will be in the 60s, if not the 70s, and all of that colder air will be pushing farther off to the north and east back into Canada on Sunday. And then even going into early next week to start the work week on Monday, February 6th, those temperatures hang around, if not even surge a little bit farther north with the 50-degree line and the 60-degree line as we head into early next week. But we do have a storm to talk about as well. You can see the mid-level jet. We have a trough, a positively tilted trough, moving in across the western United States going into late this weekend on Sunday, and that will pivot its way farther east across the Four Corners region and eventually into the southern plains in Texas by the time we start the next work week on Monday, February 6th. So looking at this will bring plenty of higher elevation snow, especially across the Sierra Nevada mountains here. We got winter weather advisories. in the lower elevations. But as you get higher up in the Sierra Nevada mountain range here, we're definitely seeing a lot more of these winter storm warnings for significant snow. And you can see that breaking out throughout the day on Sunday, not only across the Sierra Nevadas, but up here into Oregon, Idaho, much of Utah around the Salt Lake City area, and into western portions of Wyoming. Meanwhile, we have some rainfall across coastal Washington state, getting down into western Oregon and coastal California on Sunday as well. And then that will push eastward here with some Rocky Mountain snow near the Denver area and the Front Range as we move through the day on Monday. Very heavy snow, very heavy rain up here into British Columbia. The coastal areas will get slammed by very heavy snow and rain through the day on Monday up here. So definitely, if you have any travel up to British Columbia Monday, definitely keep a close eye to the weather forecast. But looking at the total rainfall accumulation from now through early next week on Monday, February 6th, some decent rains across the Pacific Northwest, getting down as far south as Central California here, especially coastal California. A lot of these areas will be averaging around an inch to maybe 2 inches worth of rain, and even heavier rainfall amounts up into coastal British Columbia into southwestern Canada with the main push of moisture with this system. But as we look at the snowfall side of things, this will be more of a snowfall headline for the western United States, with the heavy snow across the Sierra Nevada mountains and then on up across the higher elevations here of British Columbia, getting into central portions of Washington state, central portions of Oregon, and then farther east across the Rockies, getting in toward that Monday time frame. And zooming it in here across the Sierra Nevada mountain range, yeah, we're talking a foot to a foot and a half of snow. Definitely not out of the realm of possibility going through the next 36 to 48 hours out here. So definitely something to watch as we get through the weekend. So again, if you have any travel in these higher elevations, definitely take it slow out there, because we'll have those major to extreme travel inconveniences and impacts across those higher elevations into California. But even outside of that, across the Rockies and across most of the Intermountain West, even in the lower elevations, we'll have limited to minor travel inconveniences. So definitely watch out if you're traveling out west. Do remain safe, and again, take it slow on the roads and let those plow crews, clear the snow off and clear all the ice off the roads before you do get back out to driving out on the roads. But yeah, as we get here into the middle of the week, or towards the middle of the week on Tuesday, we got that trough trying to take more of a neutral tilt on Tuesday here as we get into West Texas across the southern plains. But by the time we get into Wednesday here on February 8th, that trough tries to take a negative tilt. And usually when you see a negative tilt here on the troughs, that does mean we could be talking about some severe weather and even a cold side to the storm as well. So looking at the noon time frame on Tuesday, February 7th, we got some colder air working into the panhandle of Texas, into eastern New Mexico. Maybe a couple inches of snow could be falling there, or be a very heavy wet snow across those areas. But farther east toward the Red River here into Oklahoma and North Texas, it'll be all rain going in towards the midday hours on Tuesday. That will spread eastward overnight Tuesday into Wednesday morning around 6 a.m. That cold front will be lined up across the I-20 corridor into East Texas, on up into eastern Oklahoma and much of the Arklatex regions. We do have to watch out for some stronger storms, but an unfavorable time of day. I do suggest probably more heavy rainfall than anything else. There could be some strong wind gusts and maybe some smaller hail with this, but I don't think with that time of day around 6 in the morning that we'll see enough daytime heating for any severe weather down here quite yet. But as we go into Wednesday evening, as this pushes eastward across the Arklatex and into the central Gulf Coast states, western Tennessee, down through the Jackson, Mississippi area, Louisiana, southeastern portions of Arkansas, and then eventually into western Alabama, that is a different story, because the peak daytime heating will have a lot more of the neutral to negatively tilted trough starting to work in across the southern plains here, and that will promote a squall line of showers and storms with more of the damaging wind threat, with winds over 60 miles per hour, some large hail to around quarter size, and then some heavy rain and a potential for tornadoes as well. And looking at the setup with this, dew points will be surging up into the low 60s all the way up into the mid-Mississippi Valley here Getting into that Wednesday afternoon time frame out ahead of that cold front, we will also have a fairly substantial low-level jet out ahead of the system as well. So that does mean a lot of the turning of the winds with height. We could have some tornadoes and damaging winds and large hail and stuff like that as we get toward the middle of the week. I'll keep an eye on it, but as we go into Thursday, that system will start to occlude. We'll start to see a lot more of these blues showing up across portions of Iowa, getting into southwestern Wisconsin and southeastern Minnesota, places like Madison, Wisconsin, back southwestward toward Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin, Rochester, Minnesota, Des Moines, Iowa. There could be a very narrow swath of some heavier wet snow up here. But again, Chicago to Detroit, farther south, it'll be all rain, if not thunderstorms, as we get through Thursday morning. And then that will press its way off to the north and east as we get into the day on Friday. Some leftover precipitation across the deep south and the southeast by this time. I don't think any severe weather on Friday, but I do think some heavier rainfall will be something to watch out for. Again, this system will be producing some heavy rain from the Great Lakes all the way back south-southwestward toward the Missouri Valley, the Southern Plains, the Arklatex here. This system will be reaching far and wide with the heavy rainfall amounts. We could be averaging around 1 to 3 inches in many of these areas from Chicago, Illinois, Indianapolis, and farther south toward Memphis, getting into Little Rock here. The Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex and places like Jackson, Mississippi, just some of the areas that could get hit hard with some of this heavy rain next week. And looking at the cold side of this system, now there's not going to be a lot of cold air to work with because we have the preceding warm-up ahead of this system, but there will be enough cold air wrapping around the back side of the system from Canada that we could have some wet snow until late next week. And you can see it'll be a very narrow zone, but where that snow does fall, we could have a few to several inches accumulate here, anywhere from the northern Great Lakes back across portions of the upper Midwest and then into the Central Plains. Where exactly this sets up is remains to be seen. But I do think it'll be another narrow zone with a very sharp gradient of where you go from no snow to 6 inches very quickly as we go into next week. But beyond there, toward the middle and towards the third week of February, it does remain very warm across the eastern two-thirds of the country. A lot more of these troughs will be digging down across the West Coast and the Pacific Southwest toward California, Arizona, and Nevada going in toward the third week in February. But it also looks active, so that's some good news to start to alleviate the drought out here, but it does look like an active storm track sets up from California, getting all the way across the middle of the country into the Central Plains, and then eventually into the Great Lakes and Northeast, going through that February 11th through 17th time frame. And you can see using the ensembles, we like to use these because they're a little bit far out. And with the ensembles, just show kind of the general weather pattern and how it does look to set up. Starting on Tuesday here, the 14th, we do have a pretty strong subtropical jet moving in from the south and west. Usually when you have a strong subtropical jet, these storms are more southern stream dominated. And what I mean by that is that we'll have a low pressure system develop across the panhandle of Texas or somewhere around North Texas, and then move up with the jet stream here oriented from southwest to northeast across the mid-Mississippi Valley into the Ohio Valley and eventually into southeastern Canada during that time frame. And you can see using the GFS's ensemble here, the GEFS, the 24-hour precipitation going in toward the middle of that week, it does look like we start to see a storm system there. Even the European ensemble start to show some precipitation with the storm as well, and even the Canadian ensemble models are also showing that as well. So there's high confidence in a storm, but the placement differences where the heavy snow will fall and the heavy rain and severe weather does remain to be seen as we get in toward that following week towards the middle of February. And how this also works is that, like I said, a southern stream dominated storm. We'll have a low pressure system developing somewhere across the southern plains here. It could be in the panhandle of Texas. It could be in southern Oklahoma, could be in North Texas. Either way, it'll move up from the southwest to the northeast toward the Ohio Valley and into southeastern Canada. On the eastern side of this, we'll have warmer air from the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic moving in toward the cold front. And then you have the cold front with the colder air from Canada dropping down across the northern plains, upper Midwest, even though it could be shallow cold air, but that will still be something to watch during that time frame. And then beyond that, as we get into that last last week or getting toward the last week in February. I know this is a little far out, but just giving you a heads up, do not put the the coats and winter boots and anything like that, the shovels away, because it does look like we start to turn colder. And with an active storm track, I do think we'll have more snowstorm potential somewhere across the middle of the country and toward the Great Lakes going through that February 17th through 24th time frame. And again, with that low pressure system moving out, we'll dive in with that very cold air from Canada into the central plains, into the northern plains, upper Midwest, and perhaps the Ohio Valley during that February 17th through 24th time frame. And that will also promote here some snowfall potential, a little bit higher than what we see now for snow as we get towards that second half of February. So again, don't give up on winter yet. There's a lot of winter to go yet, and it looks pretty active toward the end of February. So don't put the winter boots, the winter coats, or shovels away, because winter looks to be alive and prevalent towards the end of the month. Well, to recap my weather forecast, it looks to be the coldest in decades across the Northeast, especially today. A major warm up next week, followed by another storm system. It does look like there could be severe weather centered around that Wednesday time frame across the Arklatex and the Deep South, and then a parade of storm systems from mid to late February with potentially a few snowstorms mixed in as well. So don't give up on winter. We have a lot of winter to go yet, and a lot of snowstorm potential ahead towards the second half of February. Again, if you guys want to join me here this evening, starting at 6 o'clock here, I'm going to be hosting a trivia game night. We're going to do weather trivia, so if you guys want to join me, I'll be starting that live stream around 6 o'clock this evening, having lots of fun. I'll be asking you guys questions. You guys can answer it on the live chat. Lots of fun, lots of educational questions as well, so definitely join me here this evening. But again, thanks for watching, everyone. I definitely appreciate it. Remember to like the video by giving it a thumbs up down below the video. Leave any comments, questions, and concerns. I'll get to those later on today. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're new, and hit the notification bell to get all of my daily weather forecast updates on this channel. Have a great Saturday, everybody. A great rest of your weekend, and I will see you all in the next video.